too far away for you to hear her yet. You might be able to see her real tiny over there on the kind of middle bottom right. We are out here to show you this beautiful property, and I'm gonna get you guys closer to where you can see the whole thing. So here we go.
Stuart, I want to make sure that you really focus in on this gorgeous bank of tiger lilies here. Are they tiger lilies? Just kind of common tiger lilies, but you talk about the right plant in the right place.
Yes.
It is just stunning. And the entire approach to your home, Linda, is just magnificent. So I am here, Stuart is still rounding the bend, but I am here with my good friend Linda Lambert, who I have to say is truly one of the best gardeners that I have come to know.
What a nice compliment. That didn't sound like me at all, but it sure sounds nice.
Oh, she is being way too humble. So you have lived in this gorgeous home for about 30 years.
Yes.
And it is in just a really unique neighborhood in Oklahoma City called Lake Aluma,
Right.
which is just a little jewel tucked here in the middle of the city.
It is, and in fact, there are only 40 homes here, and we're our own incorporated town. So we have our own mayor, we have our own town council, so we are a town of 40 people.
Of 40 people. And as you will see, it's a very charming, it's got like a village-like quality to it, and it is on a lake. And just, I don't know if you know this or not, but about 30 years ago, when we were just prior to moving in our house in Crown Heights, we put a contract on a house here, just up the street from you.
You did? Oh, I wish you'd gotten it.
I know.
That would have been so much more
I know,
fun.
we would have really been insane gardeners then. So, Stuart, if you would, speaking of, if you would look from this perspective over this charming Stone Drive Bridge.
Under which the troll lives.
Which troll is that?
Well, which troll would you like for it to be?
Well, because there could be multiple trolls. I'm not really sure. So we have a little bit of competition from the lawnmower across the street, but that's just the nature of living in a neighborhood and having lush lawns and green spaces like this. But I want to talk a little bit about these incredible tiger lilies that are down in here, and you made a wonderful point.
One of the things I think that is the beauty, Linda, about these tiger lilies is that they're down in a ravine. They're in an arroyo, and they're not up high at eye level. So what you see and what makes them so beautiful, I think, is that you see the flower.
Yes.
You just see the green with a little bit of orange up top. You really see them as though you're in an airplane down below.
And to that, I would add the fact that you see them just as you're rounding the corner, and not only are they planted low so you see the tops of them, but they're planted in such great quantities. Though you said they just came up, they're just naturalized.
They have been here for 30 years. Some years there are 3. Other years they're like this. Why, I do not know, but they just naturalize every year, and some years are better than others.
Well, it is magnificent. Talk to me a little bit about your arroyo, which means in Spanish
It means a
dip, a valley, a little,
And the purpose of the arroyo is for water to go through. So it's not just aesthetic, but the arroyo here is for the water up the hill. Water always runs downhill.
Yes.
For the water that comes down from the rain runs through here and then into the lake. So this is a utility thing as well as an aesthetic, hopefully.
Right.
And we have added river rock every year, because every year when it floods, the earth settles and you've got to add more.
Well, and to this is another take-it-home tip. In addition to planting your tiger lilies low, it's that one of my favorite things about gardening is when you can make something that is utilitarian beautiful. And look at the way you have landscaped around that so that it spills over and it almost looks as if it's a natural artifact, a natural feature in the landscape.
Yeah. And that's a tin horn. That's where the water comes through.
just amazing. So, and the other thing that I love about it is that this, what in other times would be a dry bed,
Yes.
but last night probably had all sorts of water running down it. What I love about it is that it speaks to the overall aesthetic of your home, which is the same palette of this stone that you've selected matches the same palette of the stone that is on your house and the surrounding features.
Thank you. Well, we've taken what is just an ugly dry bed and tried to make it into an aesthetic feature of the home, and not just utilitarian, but something that is pleasing to the eye.
Because you've softened the edges and you've made it look very, very indigenous.
Yes.
And I just think that's amazing, down to the fact that you even have some stone outcroppings here, which are just wonderful. Now, talk a little bit about the fact that you lost how many trees?
I lost 15 trees in the front garden and in the ravine, in the arroyo. There were 8 trees in the arroyo. They were all gone. Huge trees. One native oak was so large that it was pulled up out of the ground and took my gas line with it. So in the winter storm of October, this is a totally different landscape now than it was then. We had 8 trees in the ravine. So
unbelievable.
So what you learn is that when disasters happen, you have to be nimble. So we have planted boulders.
I'm going to quote you on that. In disasters, you have to be nimble.
We have to be nimble. And what do you learn from that? Learn that we're not going to plant any more trees in the arroyo. We're going to plant boulders.
Yeah. Okay, that's just brilliant. So that is making something beautiful out of something catastrophic.
Yes.
And the other thing that I love is that it does allow you then being able to see things like the stone outcroppings.
Exactly.
And the other thing that I also love, one of my very, very favorite things that I have done over and over again, is you have thinned out. Tell me about this beautiful tree here.
This is a paper bark maple, and that is my Christmas tree. That's what we light at Christmas time.
Oh, and I bet it's glorious.
It's glorious. Yep.
And the paper bark maple, what we love about them is it's got that peeling bark, so the trunks of it's absolutely beautiful, but you have really turned this into a larger specimen by pruning it up,
Yes.
thinning it out, and also creating a window from inside out and outside in.
Yes, and that is really a key, is how do you prune a tree that doesn't just have it grow naturally. You prune it up, you thin it out, where you really can see through and it doesn't block your view, but you still have the beauty of the natural specimen.
And the architecture of the branches. The other thing, I just did a garden design video on framing the view. And so the way it kind of frames the view of what is beyond and in both directions is just beautiful. And to really emphasize that point, what would it look like? What would this vignette here that we are standing on look like without the presence of this tree? It would be naked.
It would be without clothes.
It would be, and that's just wrong.
That is wrong. We can't run around naked.
No, that is just.
Maybe it's the Garden of Eden, but it's not for us people.
That is wrong on so many levels. On so many levels. So the other thing is your attention to detail is just exquisite. And
Can I say one thing about the tree?
Sure.
I buy trees for their bark more than for their foliage.
I love that about you.
And so when I'm looking at a tree, I want to see what is the bark going to look like. And as you walk around, you see the trees that I'm much more interested in the character of the bark, or as much in the character of the bark and its shape and what it does, as much as the foliage.
And the color of the bark and the color of the trunks of the trees and the way they create wonderful shadows.
Yes.
And the other thing is, this area is just breathtaking in the snow, because I've driven over here before when it was in the snow. Though I have to say that this last time when I came through, I hadn't been here in a while, and I barely recognized it because it looks so different with the loss of all those trees.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah. The natural world took a huge hit.
Just a huge hit. Okay, so over here, Stuart, behind you, these are absolutely exquisite. Oh my gosh. a wonderful focal point as you turn the corner and come down the drive.
But you know why these are here? It's because I began to realize that everything in my garden is either very low or very tall. There was nothing
Midpoint.
There's nothing midpoint. So these are, this, in my opinion, kind of balances the height of between the very low and the very high, and just makes it make more sense.
Yeah. Well, and it gives it that wonderful layered quality that I think is what makes us a good garden exceptional. And you do my favorite thing, which is you put just evergreens in pots. So you have, this looks like an Elaeagnus.
It is.
And are these gray owls? What are these?
These are feeling blue.
Feeling blue. Okay, feeling blue junipers.
Yeah.
And these are exquisite. And you said many, many years ago you got these at TLC?
Many years ago I got these at TLC, and you cannot find them anymore.
I know, we're going to break lots of people's hearts because they're going to comment and they're going to want to know where we got them, which leads me to my question of the day, and that is, if you have a large landscape or you have a small landscape, have you identified certain design voids like you did that said, okay, I need something mid-height? So if you've got an example of that where you identified for the important layering that is our garden, and then how did you address it?
Yes.
And you addressed it with these pots, how do you guys address it in your own gardens when you need to elevate something or whatever?
And it is more interesting and you don't only layer horizontally, you also layer vertically.
Yes. Yes, and I think it's certainly imperative on a large landscape, but I think it's even more important on a small landscape because you can squeeze in that many more plants then. So down the drive, I don't want to talk about this too much, but we have some oak leaf hydrangeas down there and just more evergreens. I love the fact that you haven't just done that thing of planting 500 flats of begonias.
Like we used to do.
Like we used to do. You and I were laughing about that, how we have redefined our concept of beauty. Stuart, as we walk this way, and over here, again, you find a plant that works and you repeat it. You have a great affection for oak leaf hydrangeas.
And this was a twig that fell off of this plant. So I just took it and plopped it in here and nurtured it, and here you go.
Yeah, and it's stealing
so
from
Peter. Don't throw anything away.
No, stealing from Peter to pay Paul. Yeah. And again, that reinforces the point I always try to make, and that is, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
And it shouldn't cost.
And it shouldn't cost, because you and I are cheap.
Well, we're prudent. We're prudent.
Yes, thank you. That's a more delicate way to put it. We're prudent and resourceful.
Resourceful.
Yes, and resourceful. Is this a dogwood?
This is dogwood.
Oh my gosh.
It is dogwood.
Okay, and this
look at the bark.
Yeah, this reinforces the part. Okay, this is brilliant. Do you know what variety of dogwood this is?
No, Linda. It's just.
Oh my God! It cries out for you just to touch it, doesn't it?
Come get a shot of the park.
Yeah. Let's get out of Stuart's way. Sorry, get out of the photographer's way. And this is pruned so beautifully. Is your soil naturally acidic?
No,
so
it is naturally alkaline. So we have to, in fact, when I moved here, we have reworked all of the soil in the garden because it was red clay, sand, it was just...
Yeah, and I think if you don't know where to start, if you're moving onto a new property, that's a good place to start, is maybe having a soil sample taken and really assess what the default setting is for your soil in terms of its pH, its minerals, all of that kind of thing.
And in our part of the state, just assume it's going to be alkaline.
Yes.
I mean, I hardly know any soil in our part of the state, Lynn, and maybe you do.
I do underneath my oak tree, because oak leaves tend to be naturally acidic, and that tree's been there for almost 100 years. So by virtue of that, I know that one spot, that one microclimate is kind of acidic. Look at this. You've got a seating area and as well as a focal point. Utility meets beauty right here, underplanted with beautiful hostas. And is this a Chinese pistache?
Yes, it is Chinese pistache.
And this is a really fabulous Chinese pistache, which you know, they're not pretty teenagers.
That's right. That's a great.
They're great when they're mature.
That's right. That's really true.
But they're kind of awkward as teenagers. And you have to be willing to go through that awkward stage. And I bet in the fall when this colors, it is breathtaking.
It's magnificent. It is magnificent. This with this sugar maple that is bright yellow and orange. It is just like on fire in the fall. It's just.
Is it a caddo?
It's a caddo.
It is a caddo?
It's a caddo, yeah.
And again, you have layered it, you have judiciously pruned it, you can walk underneath it, you can see to the beyond, which is all just brilliant. And the other thing is, you know, one of the most valuable things in a garden isn't what you plant, it's what you don't plant. It's what you choose to edit out, and having enough negative space that the other things have a beautiful negative foil against which to play.
You bet.
So your stone home, you have lived here for 30 years.
Yes.
You said the original owners, a couple, a man and a woman, built this house themselves.
They built the house themselves, and as I was telling you, between the two of them, they didn't weigh 100 pounds. It is, I have photographs, it is, and they have built a really strong house. It is amazing
What they have
how little
done.
problems I have had with this house, with as little people as they were.
Yeah, and structurally, and particularly given the slope upon which you sit, where if you hadn't taken into account the way the water ran and all of those kinds of assessments, you could have really run into some issues.
That's a good point, because nothing here is level.
No, it's not.
Everything is on a slope, and so you've got to take that into consideration. What to plant, how to water. Like here, grass will not grow here.
Back in here.
So we've had to, so what do you do when grass doesn't grow? You just make it a prairie.
Right, and that's that's another tip. That's another tip. Don't try to be fancy when nature doesn't want to be fancy. So you've just got some liriope over there, you've got some ground covers, but nevertheless it's very restful. You've got a focal point of some huge slabs of red rock, and but the nice thing is it's very calming.
Hopefully, and the thing about the boulders is they take no maintenance.
No.
That's the
No,
best
they
thing
take,
about them.
I know, they take no maintenance. And it's the same reason sometimes I'll say, okay, let's put in gravel instead of grass.
Right,
No maintenance.
no maintenance.
And you still have that kind of homogeneous expanse that is a canvas upon which everything
But
else.
you have to listen to nature. If it doesn't want to
Yes.
go there, you can't force it. You got to just.
And it's a conversation that takes place over time. And speaking of, Stuart, while we're visiting, if you'll kind of go from here, you've got
Lilies.
a little bed here that relates, because everything in the garden relates to everything else in the garden. So you've got some beautiful lilies, and this should be just spectacular.
It's going to come on. It's
You'll
gonna
be flanked by fragrance and the velvety quality of the lilies here. You love coleus. I see that as a thematic throughout, particularly in the back.
Spot. I'm not drawn to red, but this garden needs some red. It needs some color.
To pop.
Green is a color, but there's just so much green you can have, and so the coleus
Yeah.
is a foil.
The other thing is, if you are looking, Stuart, I don't know if you can even do it, but if you do a sweep of this rust color coleus here, these are the kind of things that make me swoon. Okay, you've got this rust color coleus here, and you come back up, and you've got the rust color in the lilies, and the word escapes me. What are those called? Anyhow, you have to, not the stamens, those,
Yes, those.
and you've got this beautiful rust color. That's another question. Tell us what those are, because we're both having a brain lapse. But that same rhythm of color goes all the way back down to the tiger lilies.
Right, exactly.
So it's a very restrained use of color, but that also is picked up by some of the reddish hues in the red rock. So it's a color palette that makes sense, that creates to the overall harmony and beauty of the entirety of your landscape. And then of course you've got the welcoming kind of vista that comes up, and I just love the topography. I do love, nothing is even, I love the topography and the way things feel nestled nestled in place, and this goes to your front door. And I just have to say that even though you and I have known each other for a very, very long time, before I knew you, I was coveting this house in an issue of Traditional Home magazine, because it's been in a number of different magazines. And okay, this is, you know what just occurred to me? I'm reading the book, The Gardens of Bunny Mellon, right now. And you so remind me of Bunny Mellon with your bucket hat and your sunglasses and everything. You so remind me of Bunny Mellon with your innate sense of style. And well, no, yeah. I mean, I'm just a pretend gardener. She's a real gardener. But just again, restrained use of color, texture. You, like me, love dragonwing begonias. Just beautiful.
Those were hanging pots.
That you just plopped in.
I just plopped in.
Okay.
I just cut the hanging part off.
Because why make it hard when it can be easy? Yeah. And they will look beautiful like that.
All summer.
All summer, all through the duration. How large is the property?
It's a little over an acre.
Okay, yeah, because it seems massive. But you do something that is really, really wonderful, which is another tip, and we don't have it to show, but when we do in our next video, we'll have it in the backyard. Linda has, over the years, created an anthology or a visual collection of your curated plants that you use in this garden.
Yes.
And it's bound.
It is.
And it almost looks like a catalog. And it is just wonderful.
I call it my blooming bibliography.
Oh, okay, is that not just wonderful? It is a blooming bibliography because it's a record over time. The other thing that you and I have talked about at great length recently is how much our tastes have changed as we have matured as gardeners. And so something like that, in addition to a garden journal, something like that it just shows your development over time of your taste.
And how the garden has changed. Some things, nothing stays the same. No. Nothing stays the same. That's what you just have to lean into.
And it's never perfect. And it's never, I'm always, when I do tours of my own garden, I'm always saying, oh, well, this is a working garden. So it's a work in progress constantly. And other than snapshots in time for a photo shoot or for a garden tour, it's always a work in progress.
And there's a difference in a home being landscaped and a home being gardened.
Thank you.
The only thing that stays the same is change.
That's right. And it's never more true than in an Oklahoma garden. Okay, down here, this is just lovely, lovely. And again, all of these, if I understood you correctly, Linda, all of the stonework and everything was here when you bought the house. You did not add to it over time other than the stone dry bed and that kind of thing. But look at here, you've got this wonderful bank of tiger lilies.
That also serve as erosion control.
Yes, brilliant. Even if they don't bloom, they serve as erosion control. And in this area, they have room to romp.
Exactly.
And you probably, it wouldn't hurt your feelings if they really romped.
I've done nothing. They have romped all the way from the front back here. So across the arroyo. Yeah, and that's the brilliance of having a large garden, is that I can't have something like this. I don't have the space for them because the beauty of them is that they're in these huge swaths, these huge swales, and I don't have that kind of garden. But here they are brilliant, and you have found the perfect application for them. And they look like they were born here. They do look. They were in lots of ways. Yes. Yes, but you've even pruned up that little redbud. There's probably a volunteer down there, and you have probably also pruned it. These are the kinds of things, like tree pruning and that kind of thing. These are the kind of things that I learned from my garden forebears. People like you, and did you know Amy Brooks? Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay. That's a gift that you guys gave me, is the art of pruning and creating. Well, it's a barter system. We get a lot from you too. So well, we kind of go. You have to have a support system in Oklahoma to garden here, or we'd slit our wrists. And a lot of times that's interesting, because what's the first thing we do after something terrible has happened? Everybody calls all of your other gardening friends and says, oh, mine looks terrible. Please tell me yours looks terrible too. So what can we do? So I don't take it personally.
Okay, we're going to end this by going in. We could go through the front, and you've got a beautiful home. But right now, we're going to go back this way. And I hope Stuart's brilliant camera work has probably given you an idea of how the pieces fit together. But I love this passage into what is basically more of a front landscape into a real garden. Right. Okay, so with that kind of titillating you, come on in, Stuart. I love the thickness of this gate.
The original gate.
Is it really? I was going to say, no petty little gate for you. Mm-hmm. This is beautiful. And this Stuart,
is substantial.
It's a substantial gate.
And I love how it sounds when it closes.
Because a true entry point is experiential.
It is.
In some way.
It takes me back to my childhood. We had
a clanking gate, or a screened-in porch door that slams. It's very. A good entrance is experiential. It's also shady because we've got a shady bower here. But here is another tip. I've done this I don't know how many times. When you want something to be harmonious and consonant with the structure and with the landscape, you paint something accordingly.
Yes.
So this is very much a tonal paint that matches the stone of the house, and this looks like a stain maybe of this.
This is painted.
Same paint, and then this is okay. This is paint too, but it reads as a stain, and it's all just a hint and very much in
lamb's wool.
Is that what it is? One of my favorites, and it's in conversation with the stone. And the stone also not only has those gray tones to it, but it also has a little hint of red rock to it because of our red clay soil, which then looks beautiful with your little collection of terracotta. And don't you think nothing is as beautiful as a stack of terracotta pots, is it?
Nothing. And just every one, and there's so utilitarian. I use them to dig up soil, and I can plant them. If I have a garden party outside, they're the centerpieces. So you can.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely wonderful, and that's why it's heartbreaking. This is in a sheltered location wisely, because it is heartbreaking when one of your prized ones blows over.
Yes.
In the Oklahoma wind, and you lose it.
And it will.
And it will, and it has, and it's just part of the heartache. That is the anguish. That is gardening. Yes, to garden is to suffer.
That is right.
So I wrote in my book. Have you gotten a copy of my book yet?
I have gotten a copy of your book. It is fabulous. And in fact, I got two. I sent one to my daughter in Richmond because it's just.
Well, I'm so
this
flattered.
Is my friend. This is my friend.
Yeah, that's my friend.
This is my friend.
Well, again, so much of it I've learned from you, but in there, and I want you to do this for me.
I'll do anything for you.
I want you.
That was so sweet.
What do you want me to do for you? Your wish is my command.
Okay, so
Your wish is my command.
in there I have written what I call my garden manifesto. I don't know if you've gotten to that yet, but my garden manifesto of things that over my years of gardening that I know to be true, that I just really know to be true. And that's helpful if you're a new gardener, because if you're going to embark on this wonderful world of a gardening lifestyle, you need to know these things. And I think number one on there, or somewhere at the top, is to garden is to suffer.
That is very true. Another one is, and this is for life, you might be in charge, but you're not in control.
Exactly. No, it is.
You might be in charge,
it is
but
so
you're
true.
not in control. So don't get those two confused.
Yeah, and control is just an illusion after all.
It is.
Control is
Absolutely.
an illusion. Yeah. After
and now
all.
we're getting into philosophy.
And now we're getting yes.
That's good.
Yes, yes, aren't we? And we could, but you know what? We'll do that over a bottle of wine.
You got a deal. You've got a deal.
With some other gardening friends. Gardening friends.
I love that idea.
No, let's do that. Let's get Jeannie. Okay, sorry, we digress. Let's get Jeannie and Carol and yes, over here.
Got it.
And now what was I saying?
We were talking about transitioning from the front to the back.
Transitioning from the front to the back, because this makes a wonderful segue and a wonderful stopping point of this beautiful passage and the brilliance of this. This is another tip. Again, it doesn't make any difference whether you have a large garden like yours, Linda, or a small garden like my Linda. And that is that this workspace with what you need to manage and work in a garden space is easy, convenient access from front to back. And so this is not only easy and practical, but it unites the front to the back, and it is just very utilitarian. It's very functional.
And my favorite room in the house.
In your favorite room in the house,
If
because
saw
you think of it as
If you saw Hamilton, this is the room.
in the room where it happens.
This is the room where
Stuart
it
and I
happens.
use that all the time. The room where it happens
this is the
is
room
right
where it
here, or it
happens.
begins to happen. Begins to happen, where the dream is made manifest. And so it just unites the front and the back, and it's got a great view. And then you've got a wonderful potting table that I bet has been here for a very long
It's been
time.
here for about 30 years. I had it built.
Did you?
I did,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, sometimes you just have to have something customized.
You do. And had to customize because this level. This is not a level.
Not
surface.
level.
So this leg is longer than that leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see. So we had to level that on an unlevel surface.
Yeah.
So you can't.
And it's semi-protected, so you can kind of leave stuff out to a certain extent exposed to the elements. The other thing I like about this, and that I rather covet, is the fact that you have a really large work surface.
Yes.
And in my tiny garden, a large expanse of anything is a rarity. Yeah. So this is pretty incredible.
So you do a lot with not as much.
Yeah,
is,
and you know,
you learn something from that.
And I'm okay with that. And the other thing is I can really curate it to my degree of perfection because it is smaller.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't know that I could do that if it were much larger.
And there are times that I covet small.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
yes.
Really just.
And we'll leave it on this after I point out this charming little, you know.
Let me pull this dead thing off.
Okay, because you can't stand it, can you? But you and I know this to be true. You can grow anything in a container if the container is large enough. And are these must all be frost-proof?
Well, we wrap it.
You do wrap it?
I do wrap it.
What do you wrap it in?
I wrap it in bubble wrap and sheets.
And sheets? Okay.
Bubble wrap first and then sheets around.
To insulate
or a blanket.
it. And boy, I bet you were glad you did.
Oh,
because you can't find these can't find these anymore. And so you can see that the swale, the river rock swale, continues, goes all the way to, Stuart, if you can just give a hint of what is beyond the lake, which is beyond, and then the beautiful garden, which is beyond, and which we will do in another video. But I started to say, I'm going to leave you with this, that a friend of mine came over last night. Do you know Jenny Morris?
No.
Anyhow, she came over last night, and I said, oh, but before you leave, she used to live down the street from me, and she moved. And I said, but before you leave, you need to look at the back garden through my kitchen window. And she goes, oh my gosh, it's absolutely gorgeous. And she said, and I would be really jealous if I didn't know how much work it took.
That's right.
And I thought, truer words were never spoken. So if you are watching this and you are extremely envious of what Linda has here, just tell yourself that. Just say, well, but it is a lot of work.
It is a lot. But here's the other thing. If I viewed it as work, I probably wouldn't do it. Yeah. It's play.
It is play.
It's play. If I thought it was work, I really wouldn't be as enthusiastic about it. It is a joy, and it's play, and it's rewarding.
And it's your ikigai, your reason to get up in the morning.
This is a glorious monster.
Yeah.
You know,
there you go.
It is
a glorious monster.
It's a glorious monster that I have created.
But at least now you can enjoy the monster, because I have known you for a long time, and there was a time when you were on so many boards and and you didn't have time to enjoy the monster.
That's right. And now these are my children.
Yes.
I have now. I don't have much family here, so these are my grandchildren to nurture.
Yes, that you very kindly share with your friends.
I do.
You do. Okay, you guys, we'll see you tomorrow in the next video of her unbelievable backyard.
Thank you, Stuart.
Well, if you've held on this long, here is my outfit du jour. My straw hat is from Coolabar, which is one of the brands that I just love because it's got sunscreen in it. And I also love this hat because it can travel really easily and it's got a wide brim. My earrings are some that I got, I don't know, years ago. Couldn't even tell you where I got them. My dress, I think it came from World Market, believe it or not. And I love it. And some of the gals were commenting, why am I all dressed up? But honestly, you guys know that I work outside and do stuff outside in these kind of loose dresses all the time because I find them just so comfortable. Now, when I'm working out in the yard in a dress, typically it isn't a long one. And then I've got on booties because we got lots of rain again last night. So these are from J. Crew, and obviously they are waterproof. And let's see, my sunglasses, my sunnies are Ray-Bans via Poshmark. And my bracelets are just a fun assortment of all different ones. This comes from my friend at Atrios Tiles. She sent me one of these bangles. This was a gift from Hubs. This was a gift from one of my best friends. This was a gift from Hubs also. My one and only piece of jewelry from Tiffany's, I might add. And this I got on a trip, I think, to Mexico. So there you go. There's my outfit of the day.